Hello there and welcome to the show. This is Chris Reardon, today's United Kingdom talk. Now, towards the second half of the show today, oh dear, I thought I'd done with coughing before I started. Towards the end, or the second half of the show today, there will be a special appearance, okay? A special appearance, which I think is quite nice. Some people may not wish to see that. But do not worry, I shall warn you before the special appearance, and I shall warn you, and I shall tell you when the special appearance has finished. Okay? So that's coming up in the second half of the show. Right, lots and lots of emails to get through, including Carmel. Dear Carmel, who's up north, she's getting a bit upset because she's been waiting for her emails. I'm sorry, Carmel. I'm sorry, my darling, but they have been building up. Let's see how many we can get through today without any of my inane banter. There's no time for me to talk about my sad, lonely, pathetic life today, I'm afraid. No, it's straight to the emails. First of all, someone needs our help, boys and girls. Someone needs our help. Those of you that pray to whatever God you have, even those of you that believe in nothing but tend to say a prayer or two when something goes wrong. Are you one of those people? Isn't it funny? I often come across people who believe in nothing. But when something goes badly wrong, they turn to him. Anyway, it's a letter from Joe. Our friend Joe from AmericanTalkUSA.com. He does a podcast there, very different to this one. More of I call it an informative podcast, where this is just a bit of chit-chat, isn't it? And Joe writes, "Hello, my friend. Just a quick note requesting a prayer for my mum, Christine. She had surgery yesterday, and they found squamous cell carcinoma inside her nasal passages and the surrounding tissues and cartilage. 2 significant tumours were removed, and she will start radiation very soon. We do not know the extent of the cancer, but we have great concerns about the spread throughout her body," and he goes on to describe some things. "We do know that she has to have a CT, I don't know what that is, a CT, obviously something very important, at 10:30 on Monday morning. Thought you'd want to know, because I know you care as we do." And that's from Joe. So those of you that do pray, one of our own friends and listeners to the show, has requested prayers for his mum Christine, okay? Christine is the name of the dear lady you want to pray for there, okay? Of course, I have to say, by the time this show's gone out, she will have already had her CT, but it's never too late, is it? All right, thanks very much for that one, Joe. Now, there's an email address to the show if you want to join in at any time. Please, don't hold back, okay? Don't hold back. Feel free to do so. The email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. And hello to Matthew, our Tasmanian devil, all the way in Tasmania. Now, I've got 3 rather long emails from Matthew that we've been kind of just holding on to for a little while, okay? So here they come. Dear Chris, hello, my friend, and Planet Kingdom talkers. That's quite good, isn't it? Planet Kingdom, because we're all that, aren't we? Everyone that joins in this show, by however they join in, you see, you can join in by email, you can join in on Skype. My Skype is Chris Reardon, all one word, okay? Chris Reardon. Although, I have to say, quite often I don't have it running. Because what tends to happen, it's a little bit like MSN, so you're trying to do some work, and then something will flash up and someone wants to talk to you. And I do feel real rude sometimes, not that when I see there's been a missed call or something like that. But yeah, I do have Skype. Or you can just join in by listening. You don't have to come forward if you don't want to. There's plenty of people out there who have never contacted the show. I know you're there. I know. Chris knows. Don't worry. Matthew says, going back to the 6th of January, I also, too, think it's against the law if a burglar came to your house. I think it is a stupid law of what we have if the burglar can sue the owner. Now, what we were saying those couple of shows ago was that certainly here in the UK, there have been cases where burglars have jumped over someone's back fence, landed on, I don't know, a garden fork, and knocked themselves out. And then sued the owner for leaving the garden fork in the garden. And won. And it's just a ridiculous situation. I think burglars who break and enter houses, if something bad happens to them, then so be it. They shouldn't be allowed to then turn around and start claiming money from the people they're actually burgling. But it happens. Matty says, to me, this is wrong. The burglars shouldn't be there in the first place. That's why we lock our doors and windows. Why do we have to lock our doors and windows then? Oh, Matt, because we do. Because there's too many burglars around, isn't there? That's why we don't... That's why, I mean, I'm really security conscious. Very, very security... Always I've locked my doors and windows. I've got some other bits and pieces around the house to prevent burglary. I know plenty of people who don't actually lock their doors. These are the people that get broke into. Most burglars, except for, of course, the really, really determined ones, you know, which will get in somehow. The really determined ones. But, yeah, I think when it comes to the really determined ones, you've got to have something in the house worth nicking. I don't think the really determined ones would go round to perhaps council houses, that sort of thing. Where I live, this is an ex-council house. It's nothing special. But what you get is opportunist thieves. They're the ones who go round and try in people's doors and windows. And if they're open, well, I mean, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? You are asking for trouble. Matty says, and if it's a silly law of the courts that the burglar has the right to sue the homeowner, why do we have police and neighbourhood watch? Well, I think neighbourhood watch, they're there to stop... It's like a prevention thing, isn't it? You know, like when you go to the dentist every half a year or whatever, and he looks at your teeth, and if it sees any problems starting, they can prevent it getting any further. I think the neighbourhood watch thing is kind of a bit like that, really. You see we have them here, neighbourhood watch schemes, and you see twitching curtains. People sitting at... I mean, some people do take it a bit too far, dear. They're sitting at the window day and night watching activities going on, dear. God knows what they must think goes on in this house. So, neighbourhood watch, I think, is a good thing. Matty says, are the police going to arrest the home owner or the burglar? Well, that's the thing, you see. There has been instances where homeowners have been arrested because they've knocked the life out of a burglar who have entered the house. And I don't go along with that. If there's a burglar in your house, why shouldn't you try and knock him out? If one came up my stairs, okay, in the hallway, at the top of the stairs I've got this glass cabinet, I'd chuck the thing down on him. I would. I would chuck the thing down on him. Matthew says the burglar would try to do anything just to make lies that it could be their house, not yours. Well, I mean, it's terrible. I think it's a stupid law, and it is your home and private property. And I think we also have to protect ourselves from dangerous people. What can you do if there are not police with you at the time? Well, quite often they're not, are they? We don't see the police around all the time. Well, it will get these dangerous people off the streets if you whack them with a shovel to knock them out. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. If there's a burglar in your house, whack them with a shovel. But I don't think we're allowed to do that. You see, what worries me is, say you got a burglar and he attacks you, right? But you're quick, so you get him first before he gets to you. But then the police say, no, you were too heavy-handed, you shouldn't have done that. So we can't win. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous situation. You never know. This look, Matty comes on to this now. You never know, they could have a weapon or a gun. I think, in my opinion, the law should change. I think people who go around burgling houses, they should get sued by the homeowner, pay the damages, replace anything that needs replacing. And also go to court and spend the rest of their lives in prison. Not just homeowners get robbed too. Banks do, and other shopping centres too. I think I heard on the news not long ago a man with a gun in Sydney was holding hostage of a bank teller, that's a cashier, with a bag full of money, that he was telling people to step back a bit, more like a threat. But then, thankfully, the police weren't too far away. They arrested the guy in handcuffs. And I think the bank and the staff got life support or something like that when he got arrested. Probably, do you call it life support? I would call that counselling. Counselling. And I think I also to feel get hurt when people don't call you back on the phone. Oh yeah, that was another subject we did. Sorry, need to put a gap there. It's all become part of the same sentence, dear. All right, put or drop that a line. I also get hurt when people don't call you back on the phone. At the moment, I've decided not to use my phone. I will only stay in touch with people by email and letters. Yeah, that's a good. I mean, that's what I do. What I do. Trouble is, Matty, quite often my phone rings because I'm such a busy person, and the phone rings, and if I take the call, that will throw you out for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Do you see what I mean? And it stops you doing what you were doing. It's all right if you're sitting at home all day watching a telly or something like that, got nothing to do. But if you're a busy person like me, and I would think you are as well, actually, then answering the phone every 5 minutes or that sort of thing, it's hard to do. Emails, brilliant. Although I have to say I do get behind with the emails sometimes, especially since Christmas, as you've noticed. Now, let's have a look. Matty would like to travel to some other countries because he wanted to come to Britain, but he would also like to go to Egypt and the United Arab Emirates first, and Greece. Well, with the Egypt and the Arab countries, you will find their laws are very, very different. For example, I do gather that in some of the Arabian countries, you cannot drink alcohol, and you must be aware of that. Okay? When you go to another country, Matty, you must find out about all their laws and things like that, okay? And the Arab world is very, very different. All right? So be aware of that, because you don't want to get into trouble. It's a shame that certain people come over here to the UK and don't stick to our laws, which really annoys the indigenous population of a country. Not all, not even most. I said some. Some people, they come across here to the UK from other countries and they want to set up their own sort of country within the country. I don't go along with that. When in Rome, you do as the Romans do. Similarly, Matty, if you go to any other country, you must check out. Europe is pretty much the same as Australia with our laws, so you wouldn't have any problem here. America as well, again. But Arab countries, I think, are very different, okay? He says, I will think about other countries later, but that is my thinking plan. All right, so thank you very much for that. Let me see. Oh, he says, I hope Millie in Minnesota gets a boyfriend to look after her. Isn't that nice, Millie? Matty wrote that. I hope Millie in Minnesota gets a boyfriend to look after her, and Chris should look after Joy in Acton while she sits there, and you do the housework for her, and she has a bell. Is that what you're saying? I'll go round to Joy in Acton's house, and she'll have a bell where she's sitting, and when she needs something done, she just ding, rings the bell. Eh? What a cheek. Look, I bought a new gadget. I have purchased now. I've already got one of these. This is a Zen. Hang on a minute. What is it? A Zen Stone MP3 player. A Zen Stone MP3 player. And it's a tiny little thing. Joy in Acton is actually probably wondering, oh, what's an MP3 player you're saying, aren't you, Joy? Okay, it's like a little cassette player, okay? But you don't put cassettes in it. With music now, you just plug it into the computer and you load the electronic signal onto there. And then you plug your headphones in and you take it around. So nice little gadget there. It's only £29. Good, isn't it? I've got 2 of these now. Reason I've got 2 is that I have one in the car. I leave in the car with my podcasts. Because I don't know about you, but I don't listen to radio anymore. I rarely listen to radio, only for traffic news. Most of the time, I've got one of my little MP3 players. It's a lovely colour, this is. Lime green. Oh, yeah, we've got to have something a bit different, haven't we? Lime green, that is. And the other one's black. But I have loaded podcasts, that is recorded radio programmes onto these MP3 players, and that's what I listen to all the time. Anyone else not really listen to radio anymore? It's a shame, really, isn't it? But then again, the radio stations here in the UK don't give me what I want. I want someone to talk to me and be friendly. Maybe, yeah, perhaps have a bit of music as well. They just don't do that. There is a couple of people I really like listening to. And a new one, Anthony Davis. He's on one of the talk stations in London. He is hilarious. And he has a few people ringing in to the show. And he's got some real characters ringing in now. Because, of course, when you start a radio show on a station, when you're new to it, you have to build these things up. Because you get in there, and it's a new voice on the radio to the listeners. And they're kind of thinking, oh, don't know anything about this bloke. Why should I ring him? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, he's been there quite a few months now, and he's built up a nice lot of regular listeners. I can't remember there's one particular lady, and she has me in stitches. And she's like, oh, hello, Anthony. How are you, Anthony? And she keeps laughing. Is it Pat? I can't remember what her name was now. She's great. Love to meet her. One of the other caller celebrities, I like to call them, over the years has been someone called Babs in Bermondsey. And she actually rung me up while I was on a London station back in 2000 doing an overnight show. Babs in Bermondsey. Anyone remember her? I'm sure you do. Matthew says, on your show on the 13th of January, it gave some topics that I have thought about things will happen in the world. I think we used to have a show called Big Brother here in Australia, and I think the show wasn't appropriate for some audiences. I think that whole Big Brother thing, Matty, is dreadful. Now, Ross is going to hate me for this. Ross P from Ross Patzelt Radio Show. Is that the right... Oh, have I given you the right thing? Just type in Ross Patzelt Radio Show in Google. That's the easiest way to do it. He does a podcast as well. He does a talk podcast, very similar to this. And he talks about his life and sometimes little bits of pieces in the news and what he's been doing. Anyway, unfortunately, Ross, a couple of shows ago, you started rabbiting on about Big Brother. And that was it for me. Sorry, mate. And it's the first time I've turned you off. I can't stand it. I can't stand Big Brother. It is the biggest load of and I can't believe... I mean, it's obviously popular. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on. It's the biggest load of rubbish ever on the telly. There's no production values, no entertainment at all. All it is 10 animals, or however many there are, shoved in a goldfish bowl for us all to watch, and it's just awful. I have no idea of the names of the people who are on Big Brother. We've had them over the years, and I've been working in places, and someone's come up to me and says, "Oh, look, it's so and so from Big Brother." I said, "Who?" Well, and they say the name. I think Brian from Big Brother. I said, "Brian who?" "He was on Big Brother." I said, "Well, which one is he?" And then, "Don't you know?" "No, I don't know. It's rubbish. Rubbish. I think here in the UK we have at the moment Celebrity Big Brother. Couldn't tell you who's in it. Don't watch it. I see a story in the newspaper. I turn the page. And Ross, you actually made me switch off your show because you started rabbiting on about Big Brother. Turn it off, dear. Switch to BBC 2 or BBC 4. Educate yourself, dear. You can't sit on your bum watching that rubbish, surely. Anyway, Ross was talking about the Big Brother thing, and he was in great detail about, oh, God. And the only thing is, with this little MP3 player, it's actually quite hard to... It's got like a round button on the front, right? And it's quite hard to... Because obviously I listen to Ross Patzel's radio show on my MP3 player. To go forward one step, you like hit the little button and it clicks. Listen. Can you hear that? All right. That's to go forward to the next show. To actually fast forward within a show, you have to kind of push the button and hold it down. And that's it. But sometimes you don't quite get it right, and it then jumps forward to the next show. So I did a couple of times, I went forward, and you were still going on about Big Brother. Please, Ross, no more Big Brother. Matty says... Teenagers could be watching Big Brother. Oh, I'm sure they love it. I think they love it, the teenagers. I've got a feeling. He says, I find that show, Big Brother, very boring. Plus, it drags on a bit, especially when it's time to say goodbye, like it could drag on for another hour or so. What is so interesting about Big Brother? Now, I don't know where you are in the world, but do you have Big Brother where you are, and do you watch it? Will you please tell me the attraction of this abortion of a TV programme? Please tell me, because I can't work it out. It's been on here for years, for a few years now. And now and again, I've dipped in and out of it, and I can't stand this any longer. And not only that, one of the channels, TV channels here, I think it's E4, they, at night time, they do Big Brother live. Okay? And all it is people asleep. For hours on end, they have the cameras trained on people asleep. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And people are watching this. It has viewing figures. People are sitting there at home watching people asleep. Oh, come on. What's it all about? What's it all about? Alfie, please tell me. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Matthew says, as you know, I am a tourism anorak, which means he's really into tourism. Not just tourism, but a little bit of geography too, and airlines, ships and trains. And it's all part of my anorak learning in this world of places. It's good to learn, Matty. It is good to learn. It's good to send in emails and find out about things. It really is. Now, regular listeners to the show will know Matty is learning to cook. He says, when I was making pancakes a few weeks ago with my mum, I wasn't very good at flipping them over as they break. I know. I can't do that either. You can, and only half the thing comes up to it. You've got to be really good at that, mate. I wouldn't worry. Just turn it over with a fish slice, dear. Be done with it. Don't start flipping it and end up on the ceiling. In the new year and from now, I plan to also try and make my emails make a bit wording sense, as that I do try. Like I want to do a few changes of my life as into skills. Well, Matty, since you began writing to the show, 6 months ago now, your emails have improved. Okay? Practice. That's what it's all about. Practice makes perfect. Your emails are much better than when they first started arriving. I'll be honest with you. Now, you've sent in these emails and it's paragraphed, okay? We got sentences and all that now. Whereas when you first started writing the emails, it was just one long mess of words. So you're doing well. All right? Don't worry about it. You are doing well. Practice makes perfect. He says, how to get to Tasmania from the mainland or the mainland from Tasmania, because I didn't know how you do this. Matty is in Tasmania, which is like... look at my map, just a minute. It's south. Is it south? It's at the south. Is it south? 1 minute. Is that it there? Yeah, that's it. South. You're underneath Australia, aren't you? I didn't know how you did it. He says there are 2 ways. You can catch the ferry, Spirit of Tasmania, or catch a few airlines like Qantas and Jetstar. If I remember rightly, Jetstar is the budget airline, isn't it, there? Yeah. A few years ago, Australia used to have Ansett, an airline company for Australia, and John Howard's views on that were that we don't need another airline from another country. Well, yeah, he's protecting the Australian jobs there. I can understand that. I wish they'd blooming well do that here in the UK. I do. And there's not enough. I don't know what it is now, but I think years ago, politicians went out to protect their own people's jobs. I don't think that happens so much anymore. I don't know how popular John Howard was, but he had me in stitches. I thought he was... I liked some of his views. I did like some of his views. There was a particular thing that happened once when, sadly, this would have been about 3 years ago, you had a ship full of refugees. I remember. I don't know where they were from or what, and they wanted to land in Australia. And I think it was John Howard, and he says, "No, you're not coming in here." And I think he sent out the Navy to get not to blow it up, obviously, but to warn the boat off, and they couldn't get in. I actually go along with that. I might sound a bit harsh, but you see, the trouble is, the more people you let in, the harder it becomes for the indigenous population. They're paying taxes, this, that, and the other. Okay, if you come to a country legitimately and you want to work, this, that, and the other, fair enough. But when you get a boat full of... it's just, I actually go along with that. I'm glad John Howard said, "You're not coming in here, mate." And that was that. I don't know where they went. It's very sad. But, at what point? You can't just keep letting more and more people in. It doesn't work. Does it? Certain people are fantastic who come from other countries. Certain people are not fantastic. I mean, I can think now, here in the UK, of people that have contributed so much to this country. People from India and people from Pakistan came over here years ago and set up businesses. They worked hard and are still working hard. Interestingly enough, I spoke to a Pakistani gentleman in a shop the other day in Hampstead, which is in London. And, when there's an empty shop and there's a bloke sitting there on a till, I just always feel the need to start talking to them. So I went in there and I bought a bag of crisps, I think. I can't remember what it was now. And a newspaper. And I says, "You open all night here then, mate?" He said, "No, it's not worth it." I said, "I don't blame you." I said, "I can't understand these people who stay open all night long. They can't sell much." He said, "Well, I don't think they do." I said, "Have you always done this?" He said, "No, I worked in a factory before." I said, "Well, what happened there?" He said, "Well, I left a factory to set up this shop." I said, and, I looked around and he looked tired. And I said to him, "Would you do it again?" He said, "No, not in a million years." He said, "If I could go back to working in the factory now, I would do it." I said, "Why?" He said, "The hassle we get in his shops, usually with kids who are drunk, landlords who charge enormous amounts in rent, council taxes, legal mumbo jumbo and all that." He says, "I wish I'd never done it." It's interesting, isn't it? But nevertheless, lots of Indians and Indian people and Pakistani people, they came over here a long time ago now, and they set up businesses. The Jewish population, they all came over here and set up businesses. How many Jewish people do you know who are intentionally unemployed? Exactly. That's not to say that all English people want to work. Oh, God, you're having a laugh, aren't you? You know, I could, if I wanted to now, pick up the phone to the authorities and name a list of people who are claiming some sort of sickness benefit or unemployment, and they're just too... English, but I'm talking English people here. English people here in the UK. People who don't want to work. I could do that now, if I wanted to. Here's a list of people that I know do this, this and this for their own fun, and they contribute absolutely nothing to society, and it annoys me. It annoys me. So it's not just those that come into the country, but you can see when John Howard saw this great big boat of refugees. It's, on the other hand, Australia is a very, very big place, isn't it? Why is it that people only seem to live around the edge of Australia? You notice that? There's not much in the middle, is there? Any views on that? Let me know. Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Now, I'm all for helping people. I'm all for helping people. That bloke who steps off the plane and said they just tried to shoot me in wherever. If I go back there, I will die. The difficulty is which ones are lying and which ones are telling the truth. You can't tell me that an entire boatload of people were... Or were they? I don't know. It's very, very difficult. Look, okay, let's put it this way. Let's make it smaller. If you're sitting in your house, you get a knock at the door. 10 people want to come in because they've got nowhere to go. Will you put them up? 10 people. Do you see what I mean? 10 people you don't know. They all look a bit rough. Are you going to let them into your house? Makes you think a bit differently there, doesn't it? It's the same thing. Boatload of people waiting to come into your country. You going to let them in? Let us know your thoughts, okay? Chris at unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. Matty says, back onto the airline thing, but my views are we still need another airline from another country as that you fly there. And they've got to come back to somewhere. And plus, without the transport, that tourism would fall down. Yes, that's right, tourism. Yeah, but you can have too many airlines. This is the trouble sometimes. I think you can have too many airlines. At the moment, of course, with the world in terrible recession, a lot of these airlines are going to fold, and you'll just be left with a few, I would guess. I know that British Airways have been trying to join up with some other airlines. I think one was Qantas, and I think the other was Iberia in Spain, and I gather, and I'm not quite sure if I'm right or not, I gather both of these things have fallen through for whatever reason. He says, radio in Australia has been coming off very, very boring. He says, I rarely now listen to Triple J that I used to listen to a lot there. Oh, I listen to Dr. Carl on Triple J. Do you hear that, Matty? And who's that woman? This is Dr. Carl on Triple J, Australia, Australia's National Youth Network. I think that's quite good, that. So I'm surprised you're not listening to that. He says, here in Tasmania, there are some of the worst radio stations. They are very boring, and you get that voice in your head that you don't like their radio station. Triple J used to be good, but it's sort of more out of control that it can sometimes get a bit boring. but he's better than some of the other radio stations. He doesn't like John Laws or Darren Hinch. I don't know these people. He says they're the worst radio presenters I have ever heard. Why are they bad, though? Not only that, they are downright rude. Yeah, I can't do rudeness. I have to tell you, I'm doing a live radio show on another station here in the UK at the moment. And it's a show all about podcasts, okay? So what I do is I select someone's podcast and I take little bits and pieces out of it. I play it on the radio and I invite people to write in or call in and comment on the podcast. And I try to be as helpful and nice to whoever the podcaster was or is. And someone said to me, why don't you be a bit harder on them? And I'm like, well, what do you mean harder? He said, harsh. Go on, really rip them to shreds. I said, because I can't. He says, why can't you? I said, it's not something I do. He said, no, it makes good radio, he said. Go on, really rip them apart. And I'm like, no. He said, well, why not? I said, because I'm a nice person. I can't do that. You know, it doesn't matter how bad a podcast is or anything else artistic. Someone has spent a great deal of time creating that little show. And to have it torn apart by the very guy that's just played it out, I think is just awful. It's a bit like the old X Factor thing, isn't it? Yeah. It's you know, when they come in and they've been singing for years and years and years, and the family, you know, maybe get some young child who's, I don't know, 15 years old, who's been singing for years. The family, quite wrongly, I don't know if they're all, I mean, we've seen this so many times, the family of the child have been telling them for years that they are a fantastic singer. And then they appear in front of the judges for X Factor and they sing. And it's the worst singing you've ever heard. And then the judges, maybe one or more of them, tell them how bad they are and they should never have appeared. And it's just the way that they're told that I have a problem with. Because usually they end up in floods of tears. Floods of tears. For years they've been singing. They have been convinced, quite wrongly, by their family that they can sing. And then the judges tell them, you haven't got a chance or you're really bad. I just feel that there's other ways of telling people rather than being like that. And as I say, it's not the judge, it's not just the judges that are to blame, it's the families as well. It's ridiculous to tell someone that they think they are the best singers in the world. And I don't know if the families are tone deaf or what. But to actually tell them in front of millions of people, is that good television? I don't know. I don't think so. But I can't slag someone's piece of work off unless it's something like one of those dreadful things that you get at the Tate gallery. Oh, God. I mean, we've seen some... What annoys me with that one is that they win thousands and thousands of pounds for the biggest load of rubbish you've ever seen in your life. Do you remember that about 5 years ago, there was a particular artistic piece, I think it's called. And what it was, in the Tate Gallery in London what it was a bed ruffled up with used condoms all over it. She won thousands of pounds for that. Please tell me where the artistic integrity is in that. It's rubbish. And yet, you can probably go around to some of the schools where you are and see little 10 and 11-year-olds paint the most beautiful pictures. That, to me, is artistic. Not some blooming bed. You must have seen some of that rubbish. And it's shocking. It's shocking the money that's shoved onto that. Terrible. Terrible. And they go, oh, but you don't know the story. I don't want to know the story, thank you. It's not artistic. Artistic is when you can look at something. It's beautiful. Huh? I mean, the Sistine Chapel is very nice, dear. I was thinking of having something like that on my ceiling. What do you reckon? Sistine Chapel comes to Bracknell in Royal Berkshire. I like it, yes. Where are we going now? Let me just see. Oh, let me get down here. I think... right, we'll leave that email there. I think, Matty. Because there's lots of others here. Oh, thank you very much to Joe. Thank you very much to Joe. AmericanTalkUSA.com for sending me yet another picture of him with one of those stupid hats on with the pigtails. Please stop sending me those pictures, Joe. All right. Okay, lads. Some lovely emails here. I'm going to read you the final few emails today that have come in over the last few weeks about my cat that I lost, Tiny, a couple of weeks ago now. First of all, our friend Marsha in Florida. Not Caribbean, Florida. For some reason, a while ago, I thought Marsha was in Florida. She is in Caribbean. She is in Florida. Watch out for the lightning. Dear Chris, I'm so sorry that you lost your beloved pet Tiny. It was clear how much you loved and cherished her. I'm sure it will be very difficult. Yeah. Hold on tight to all those great memories. 20 years. What a rich and loving relationship they must have been. Prayers from across the pond, and that's from Marsha. She says some nice things there. Thank you so much, Marsha. Yeah, like I said, she wasn't a cat that liked too much fuss being picked up and all that. But she was there for 25 years, or 20 years. Between 20 and 25 years it was, okay? Wayne Anonymous. I know I've had this a couple of weeks, Wayne. It's taken me this long to get around to all these bits. Who says, hello, Chris. You earned the Stiff Upper Lip Award for making it through your programme. There's the one just after I took Tiny to the vet. Do you remember that? When I told you about it, when I first told you about it, literally 2 hours before, or an hour before, I had taken her to the vet. I dare say that many of your loyal listeners were reaching for tissues by the show's end. So there we are. Thank you very much for that one, Wayne. And I think we've just got one more now. One more on the subject of Tiny. First of all, from Carmel. She says, this is a little bit strong from Carmel up north here in the UK. I have a viewer, but don't hold your breath, by the way. Very disappointed you haven't read out my emails yet. I've sent 3 times. Shall I give up? Now, listen, dear. If you're a regular viewer and listener to the show, virtually every show since Christmas, I have said, I'm very sorry, we are falling badly behind with the emails. So stop moaning, dear. Carl, for Christ's sake, Carmel. Stop moaning, because I've saved this for this special day. Now, I said to you, there's going to be an appearance today, okay? That's coming up in a moment or so's time. And Carmel, your email was one of the most touching. And I've been saving it for this particular show. It says, well, Chris, I'm very sad to hear about Tiny. When you said you had some bad news, I thought it might have been Tiny, as you had previously said she'd been acting strange. I am a very emotional person anyway. I cry at adverts. Yeah, me too. You know that kind of person. I am, believe it or not. I find it very difficult to hold myself together when E.T. comes on the telly or anything like that. And Carmel says, but oh, you did make me cry. But I have to say, only people who have lost a loved one or a beloved pet can understand how you feel. Maybe I'm wrong, who knows. But when I lost my dear dog Trixie, a little scruffy terrier, I was 23 and I had to take 2 days off work, as she was just my life. She had been bought for me when my dad died, when I was 13. She was my best friend and my confidant, and when she died, I just felt so empty inside. I just loved her so much. My brothers and sister, even my mum, used to tell me off for the way I used to treat her, so human-like. I remember my mum used to have to work some nights at the boys' club in Roehampton. Do you remember it? Yes, I do. I never went in there. Never actually went in there, Carmel. The boys' club was like a social club in Roehampton where I used to live, and Carmel indeed used to live as well. And at the time, my mum used to buy like half a cow and half a pig, or maybe a sheep from the butcher's, and have it cut all into the cuts we have today. Chops, steak, fillets of each animal, and so on. When she would go out... I've just read ahead here. Oh, talk about an email that makes you cry and then makes you laugh. Listen to this. When my mum would go out, I would go to the freezer and get the best of whatever was in there, defrost it, and then cook it for my Trixie. Oh, that's a lovely thing to do. I bet your mum went mad, didn't she? Giving all the best food to the dog. My mum was like this. Carmel. My mum, many, many times, I would go round to my mum's house, this is no word of a lie, and she'd be cooking. And she'd be doing a chop or a chicken or something like that. And then she'd say, do you want anything to eat? I say, oh, I'm all right, Mum. I'll sit in the kitchen. Or I might go in the living room, and then I'd go back in the kitchen later. And Mum would be sitting there eating a tomato. And there's the dog on the floor with its chop. I think it's a lovely thing. I'm not taking the mick or anything. I think it's a lovely thing to do, to look after your animals like that. I really do. And I'm sure there's many, many more people listening or watching the show who do such things. But it is funny, isn't it? When you think about it. Carmel said, I would put it all on a plate, cut it all up with a knife and fork, then hand feed her at the table. Maybe I was a bit mad. Well, we all are, dear. Don't worry about that. When I got my last dog 4 years ago, I told my mum then what I used to do. She said that she knew that I was always mad. But I would do anything for her. Or I could tell you some stories about me and my dog. But on that sad note, I thought we'd sit down with a cuppa and listen to your show before I get ready to up to a memorial service. I don't know whether you heard in the news about the young girl getting killed on the railway line. Her car got stuck and she was killed by a train here in Spalding. No, we didn't get that story down here in the south. Well, it was my son Alex's teacher. So you can imagine me now at the moment. I can't even see the screen from the tears. Life is just so sad and hard sometimes. But I do feel I have had my fair share of deaths in my family. Father, stepfather, 2 brothers, 1 sister, and of course, the dog Trixie. As my Alex tells me, they are all okay now. They're stars in the sky. And they don't have to pay for anything when they get to heaven. It's all free. Stars in the sky. I've said before, I remember someone once saying to me, stars in the sky, what are they? And someone said to me, they're little windows from heaven looking out at us. It's nice, isn't it? With that comes a smile to my face. Oh, to be so innocent, I only wish it would last forever. Well, so sorry again about Tiny, and my thoughts are with you, and that's from Carmel. Thank you, Carmel. And the reason I saved this email, because I thought it was ever so warm and nice for this show, is because I've been waiting to collect something. And yesterday, at last, I got the phone call. Hello, it's the veterinary surgery here. Just to let you know, Tiny's ashes are now ready for collection. So yesterday, funny old day I had yesterday, really. So ups and highs and lows all the time. Went to the bank and jumped on my bike, actually. Went to the bank. Done a bit of shopping in Marks and Spencer's. We got a little Marks and Spencer's food place. It's like high quality food, but unfortunately it looks like it's going to be closing down shortly, which is an enormous shame. Funnily enough, and then I got back on my bike and I thought, well, I'll go to the vet now. I had all shopping, and guess what? A flat tyre on the back, weren't it? Oh dear. Flat tyre on the back of the bike. So fortunately there's a little bike repair shop in town, so I just wheeled it round there. I said, can you do that for me while I wait, mate? He said, yeah, come back in half an hour. So I said, okay. So it was now about 10 to 3, so I went down to the chip shop and I had some sausage, egg and chips for dinner while he was doing my bike. Oh, and there was this dreadful man in there in the chip shop. I mean, he seems the sort, he looks a bit rough, you know, and he seems the sort that would go into the chip shop at 11 o'clock and stay there until about 5 o'clock. And all he did was talk. Oh, you should have heard him. Everyone that came into the shop, he started to... I mean, he didn't talk to me for some reason. I don't know why. But every time someone came in, he'd say, all right, mate. And they sat there and chat. And they must have... Those staff must have had their minds done in. And every now and again, he'd buy so. How much is a Savaloy then, mate? Oh, is it? Oh, go on then. I'll have one of those. Oh, God. And I thought, please, God, don't bring him over here. I was in there for half an hour and he didn't shut up once. Chat. Can't bear people like that, can you? Anyway, so I went to what? Pardon? Went back to the bike shop. Bike all fixed, air pumped up. So that was it. I then jumped on the bike and went to the vets. And hello, I said I'd come to collect Tiny's ashes. Thank you very much. So collected the ashes. They charged me £96 for that. £96 is a lot of money, isn't it? And they present them to you in a box. Now, I have that box with me now in the studio. I'm not going to open the box and show you the ashes, okay? But I do have the box. It may be that you don't want to see this. There's nothing nasty, but I just wanted to show you what it's like when you get, or certainly when I got Tiny back, all right? So if you want to look away now, those of you watching the YouTube, then feel free to do so. I will, of course, describe it for the people who can't see it. And the box has actually been sitting behind me for the whole show. Comes in a cardboard box with like a little flower on top. And there's the name of the pet crematorium on the... It's just a normal cardboard pretty box. It's a pretty box. And inside that... Okay. They give you a lovely little wooden box. And I mean, it really is quite beautiful. There's a little design on the top there. It's a wooden box with carvings all around it. And she's in there. And I'm not sure, because I got her ashes, I'm not sure whether to bury the whole box or to sprinkle the ashes. Now, you may remember I said a few shows ago that I was intending to make a little, a special plant, what do you call it now? A bed, a plant bed, and then sprinkle the ashes in and do it. But do you remember I told you on the Thursday, a very cold Thursday, that I found her outside sitting behind a particular bush? Now, this is not somewhere I'd ever seen her sit before, but it was at that point I knew she was on her way. She'd come out of her little bed and gone behind that bush. This bush just happens to be directly below my bedroom. I think she wanted to die there, but I, of course, picked her up and brought her into the kitchen. So I'm now not sure. I think that's where she should go. She wanted that to be her last resting place. So I haven't decided yet. If you've got any thoughts, what do you think about that? Should I dig a whole new one, or should I put her where she was kind of last in the garden? I think that's where she wanted to be. All right. So there we are. Okay, I've put the box away now, those of you that didn't want to see that. And I've run out of time. As always, thank you so much for joining me. My email address is chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. All right, chris@unitedkingdomtalk.co.uk. We are still behind with the emails. Keep your fingers crossed. We'll catch up on a few more on the next show. From myself, Chris Reardon, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.